always identify myself as an athlete.
Track is my life, and I want to keep going with it.
What do I do after baseball?
I'm just good at caring too much.
Thinking professionally, I was drifting.
I'm just good at caring too much.
Track is my identity, so I don't see myself outside of that right now.
Love watching sports and love playing it. Like, it is my life. Like, I can't see anything else like outside of it.
Good at caring too much.
So athletic identity is the idea how strongly somebody identifies with the athletic role. And if you're talking about a college athlete, you're talking about somebody who spent probably 3/4 of their life really strongly engaged in the athlete role. That identity as an athlete is very strong, and it's something that sometimes forecloses pretty early in terms of, this is what I am. I'm an athlete. That's what my entire kind of world revolves around. So, all of my friends are athletes. Everybody that I know identifies me as that. People ask me about how my season is going. We want to keep in mind that the stronger that identity is as an athlete, when that is done, we have to know what the next, what else is there. And if the only thing that we have is athlete, there's always a concern that when that person is done playing, the question becomes, now who am I?
I don't even want to think about that. I feel like I'd be lost a little bit, like, what do I do now? Because this is so, it's been such a part of my routine. Like, I wake up thinking about track, I go to sleep thinking about track. Oh, track this, track that, meeting this, lift that. I feel like I'm gonna be so lost, and I'm looking like, oh, okay, what do I do now? I have the whole day to do whatever, what do I do? That's a hard question, because I'd be lost. I don't want to think about that. I run track, I run the 200, the 400, the relay with the 400, and the occasional 4x1. 6-time MVC, all-time MVC, 4-time MVC champ in the 4x4, West Regional qualifier, NC2A qualifier, and some other stuff I can't even think of right now. I'm already stressing about grad school, GRE, what am I gonna do once I get done? My track career is over, so I'm just like, go pro, or what am I doing? So it's scary and kind of stressful. I don't know if I wanna keep doing this. Putting my body through stress, it's hard, hurting all of the time, and trying to figure out how am I supposed to heal myself if I'm constantly putting pressure on my body. But at the same time, it's like, I like to do this, track is my life, and I want to keep going with it. So right now, a lot of people don't see what we go through. Collegiate track and field is extremely taxing to our bodies. So waking up early, super early in the morning to like go lift or go practice. You know, we have classes throughout the day, that's stress. It's variation, but like the same routine every day. I'm always hurting. I mean, even with the treatment that we have, I'm always hurting. I'm always tired, I'm always sore, but I have to push through it. And the pressure is really high for me considering that, you know, we went to nationals last year and I'm putting self-pressure on myself and the coaches are like, you know, we have to get to nationals again. So I'm trying to turn my body up like more and more this year than I did last year because I know what I want to do. Track has made me who I am. It's kind of a part of my identity and I feel like it's going to be with me, you know, for the rest of my life. So why not get a tattoo that's going to be on me for the rest of my life? I mean, I could coach, but I don't really want to coach for real. I don't know. I probably gotta find me a hobby. After this, I need a hobby because I'm gonna be so lost. I mean, I want to be known for track. I don't know. I want to be known for somebody who is an inspiration to people. I want to be known as Genesis, the hard worker. Genesis, she likes challenges. I mean, that still kind of ties into track too, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, track is my identity, so I don't see myself outside of that right now. In December, like before our home meet, I tweaked my hamstring, which really sucked, and then we found out that I strained it. So I had been out for a month, and then I tried to come back, and then I strained it again, probably worse. Dealing with the hamstring strain has kind of been like mentally draining for me because I've never been like seriously injured. Like it's minor and you know, it takes a couple weeks for that to heal. But for me, like that's a big deal because I have all these goals that I wanted to achieve and that kind of brought me back a few steps. So now I'm just kind of like, well, I'm not even where I need to be. So like, is pro really even an option right now? But grad school is always an option. I know we talked about me going professional at some point. That's still kind of a TBD right now, but grad school at the end of the day is still the goal.
I think people in general just think, I am just an athlete. Like, what do I do after sports? And I thought that way as well. Like, what do I do after baseball? My dad played college basketball. His whole side of his family is very like, they've been college athletes, like all of them went to play college. So like obviously he drove sports into our lives. I can't remember a time like when I wasn't playing, fall, summer, winter, always playing something, basketball, soccer, baseball. Love watching sports and love playing it. Like it's just, it is my life. Like I can't see anything else like outside of it. I was never a big baseball player growing. I was very like heavily based on basketball because my dad played. And so I think that kind of drove a lot to it, but he also put a ton of pressure on me playing. So I think it was one of the reasons I quit and just our high school coaching. And so then I just solely became focused on baseball my sophomore year. Burnout was by far the biggest thing. I think I put more pressure on myself than I needed to with basketball. I think that definitely was one of the big reasons why. I ended up quitting where baseball had always been that sport that like I just played and I loved playing it and I was good at it, and so I was super competitive as a pitcher and it was just fun to just be up there and like I always found it, I don't know, there's just like something about it. Like I didn't think it was going to be a sport I'd go to college for. The jump from high school to college is unbelievably like huge. It is way harder. I came in at 170, 6'5", 6'6", looked like a twig. Like you could snap me easily. And these guys were like putting up some serious weight like in the weight room where I was not at all. And it was like a massive, like overwhelming. Like I don't know if I can am ready for this. And I think people just like don't give enough credit to student athletes, whatever sport they play. I had probably figured out my decision that I was quitting after my junior year, probably a fourth of the way through the season when I still hadn't pitched forever. I feel like I did everything I could and I just still wasn't seeing the field. I think I could like convince myself that like it wasn't over, like I still had another game, like, or just something. I don't know what it was, but when I did get down to kneel and pray one more time, like it hit me like hard. I was like, I won't ever get to do this again. Like, did I enjoy it as much as I could have? Like, I feel like I tried to hide it. Like, I tried to act just normal at games just because I didn't want it to be like, I didn't want to think about it and get emotional about it and not enjoy it as much. So I tried to like hide myself from this like emotional feeling. And at that game, like I just couldn't. Like I didn't like bawl my eyes out, but like I got super, I'm a very person who just gets like teary-eyed, and it's really rare for me like to cry like a ton. I don't know if it's just the masculinity thing, like I try to hide it, but yeah, it like hit me like a wall. And I just like that whole drive home and everything, like that was all that was on my mind. Like I wanted to be like happy, like whatever, like talk to the guys on the bus, but it just like, it just was sitting in my head like I'm done. And it's hard. It's like this huge, it's a weight, it was like a weight lifted off my chest, all this hard work, like I don't have to worry about that anymore. But it also just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like everything just rushed like into my body and just like, whoa. It definitely sucks not having it in your life. Like you don't realize how much is in your, like that was a part of your life. Like that was your life. So I hope I can find something that does, like, I don't know what, I don't know yet what it will be, but yeah, I just hope I can find something that like can be that same thing that baseball was, or any sport was to me.
I always identify myself as an athlete, like I'm an athlete. And I think something as an athlete that you do is you continue to challenge yourself and you kind of push yourself to the limits to see just, you know, do you even have a breaking point, and you kind of feel invincible and you want to, you know, just kind of go, go, go. My dad was a baseball and basketball coach, and so baseball and basketball were pretty much my childhood. Going through middle school, I always wanted that label of like, oh, that guy's an athlete, that guy's a three-sport athlete, like dang. I always wanted that on my resume and wanted to be, you know, identified as that. I had golfed a little bit as a kid. Like my dad took me to a par 3 course in Johnson City, and so I'm somewhat familiar with the game. I've watched it. Always been a Tiger Woods fan, so I was just like, let's give this golf thing a shot. And from there, just kind of fell in love with it and really never looked back. From an individual basis, I currently am tied with 2 other people for the lowest 18-hole score in school history. I shot a bogey-free 64 at Austin Peay's tournament my junior year of college. At that same tournament the year before, instead of a 64, I shot a 67. It added up to a 273, and as we looked into the record book, that was the lowest team score in school history that still stands today. To say that, you know, my team, my sophomore year, still holds a record for lowest team score in school history is something that I'm very proud of. Part of the first conference title in school history. Got to make our first regional appearance. We went down to Alabama. That's the first time SIU men's golf has made an NCAA postseason. Playing some summer golf by myself, I qualified for back-to-back United States amateur golf tournaments. It's the biggest amateur golf tournament in the world, so being able to, you know, qualify for it once is awesome, but to go back-to-back was you know, that was remarkable. That's something I'll never forget. Absolutely loved it. I didn't really see myself, I didn't see there being any joy or peace in my life to, you know, travel the country. I didn't really feel like I wanted to make that financial commitment of, you know, gas and vehicles, hotels, food, all of that it's all on the road. And then on top of that, the entry fee it takes to get into golf tournaments. I didn't really want to make that commitment, and it wasn't something that I was excited to do. And so the end of my college career was a little bit bittersweet for me. I kind of hit a little bit of like a burnout period to where I was fortunate enough to work at Kokopelli down over in Marion right after I graduated.
We want them to be the best when they're here, but we also want to be able to help them transition into, they understand that maybe professional golf is not for them, but they still want to kind of be involved, and maybe that's in a coaching capacity, maybe that's, being a head pro at a golf course and what that might entail.
It's something I've always loved, and I always wanted to be around it, but for a good 2 to 3 weeks of actually working there, I didn't even step foot on the golf course. I was like, no. When the pressure of golf kind of starts getting up there and starts to kind of just show its teeth a little bit, is about where I would kind of change a little bit as a person. I felt like I took a lot of things for granted and got way more self-centered whenever that kind of stuff would happen. So getting away from that atmosphere, I think, has made me a better person, and I think until you've actually lived it, I don't think you understand the pressure that all of that, having all that time consumed in one day, and the pressure of trying to make sure you're at the right place at the right time every single time. Once the final whistle blows, the ball stops bouncing, whatever you want to call it, whatever analogy you want to use. Once that stops for you, making that transition is kind of hard because, like I said, my dad was a coach, and so for 22 years of my life, I've been known as an athlete. I think it's scary to not know where you're going next.
We are all a product of something. We are all a product of something. I'm a product of my community, my family, my teammates, and all those coaches that I had. I was a linebacker here from 2007 to 2011. I know for a fact, I can count on one hand, it's less than 3, the amount of high school or college football games that my mom missed. So she, support-wise, just an incredible, my mom, my grandparents, my dad was actually passed away at that point, but from a support standpoint, yeah, I had a lot of love and support. When my dad passed away, he passed away suddenly when I was 13 years old. He loved watching me play football. I think I always felt like I was playing for him a little bit, and it did drive me in football. I know it did. I think there was, especially through high school, like I was just driven to do really well and to keep working really hard because I felt like that was what he would have wanted me to do, and I felt like in a way I was making him proud by continuing to develop into hopefully a good player. One of the things that I think Coach Kill and that staff told me why they recruited me is because I played the game with passion, and they said it showed up on film. Control the things you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. When the student athlete part came to an end, there was some peace kind of in my soul. I wasn't excited to be done, but I do think I was able to find just a gratitude for the people, the support, and all the people that had kind of helped me get to that point and have a really enjoyable, life-shaping experience as a student athlete. You're so focused and you're so committed and you're so invested in being a student athlete. You're focused on your grades, you're focused on, getting better on the field, that sometimes you don't think about that next chapter and that next phase. And so for me, I came here, like I said, think about this, from probably the most traumatic event I'll ever experience happened just 5-6 years before I got to SIU. So I'm a freshman, I'm displaced from my community. I'm wishing that my dad would be able to come watch me play college football, and I had to grow up. I made mistakes. I think that what was really important is that I talked about those good people. I had good people around me from all different phases of life, but growth just takes place just by being committed and wanting to grow. So as a student athlete, I think I went through a progression of, I have no idea what I want to do. The vast majority of the time I was a student athlete, I was not focused on what's the next phase look like. I wasn't worried about it, which could be a good thing, I think. You're not concerned about it. But I would say I drifted in that area, thinking professionally, I was drifting. People wouldn't have said that about my approach to academics and my approach to being an athlete. So that transition was tough. I was very fortunate and blessed because of relationships. When I finished my, even getting my master's degree opportunity, I was a graduate assistant. So every job that I've had has been, can you trust him? Can he do it? Is he going to work hard? Some of those same attributes, if I link it back to my being a student athlete, that I did really well when I was focused on the athletic experience, I think have came through a little bit professionally.
I think if you look at like the literature that's out there on athletes leaving the sport role, there is a tremendous amount of overlap with how you see it looked at compared to, again, people with any kind of a major life transition, which can put people at risk for, having issues with mental health, because again, you're talking about changing something pretty significant about their life. Okay, well, you're done, and then you take that uniform off, and then you're never going to put it back on again can just be jarring, and we want to make sure that people feel supported moving forward. When we try to help somebody transition from anything, it's not about, okay, well, now you're past the transition, so let's try to deal with it, but rather, how do we prepare you? How are you making the transition, and then what happens afterwards that we may need to help with? There are a few things. For an athlete to make a successful transition, first of all, I think it's important that being prepared to leave college and enter the workforce in whatever way that is. One of the things that I think a lot of transitional programs try to capitalize on is to help athletes to see how their athletic experience puts them in a position to be ready to move on. So enhancement strategies are, how do we help to enhance some of the things that people are bringing in with them? So again, most athletes are hard workers, so how can we sort of apply that to other areas? With support, we want to make sure that we have people, again, in place or support mechanisms, I guess, in place for helping people when they're getting ready to make the transition out. So again, whether that's help with things like resume building. How can we take what an athlete potentially has been doing for 4 years and then apply it, how can they highlight those things, or how can they capitalize on those things? Again, finding internships or applying for graduate schools or those types of things. And then counseling wise, again, some of that might happen, prior to the transition, but how are we going to put some things in place that if people are struggling with that transition, that we make sure that they have resources in place to help them make the transition more effectively. They understand what it takes to fit a lot of things into a day. They sort of have to be able to do that. Being able to work with, people from a lot of different backgrounds, having taken on leadership roles before, establishing connections and relationships in the community, doing community service, but helping people to see that, okay, just because your athletic, career is over, those skills can transfer over to what you're doing next. When people feel like, I don't want to complain about anything, I don't want to, I don't want people to think that I can't handle this or that this is something that I'm struggling with, It just makes it that much harder then for people to say afterwards, like, yeah, I'm not doing well with this. And again, I like to think that that's changing, but it can feel really isolating at times. Like, oh, I'm the only one who feels this way. Everyone else seems like they've retired and everybody's happy and loving life, that they don't have to go to practice. When, you know, you may have several people that are actually struggling with it, but they're putting on a brave face.
I would almost more rather hold it in myself. I don't know why. And that's the problem. I think a lot of athletes are like that, where they like to hold it in.
Definitely talk to somebody. Nobody's gonna know what's wrong with you if you don't open your mouth. You know, my mom always told me a closed mouth don't get fed.
You know, if that's all you've known in your life, like, that is gonna be a difficult transition. And for the people that are, you know, on the outside looking in, it's like, well, I mean, if you had to stop exactly what you were doing, let's say all of that's done and behind you, like, you'd be lost. And it's a very, very difficult transition to make.
It does come down to understanding that you are an athlete. That is, it would never be something where we would expect people to not feel like that's an important part of who they are. But I would encourage people to remember that that's only one part of who you are.
You can talk to them about other things that you can see them doing, and other things where you can see them being successful, and I think that's important too. You can't be so streamlined into somebody can only do one thing and one thing only. I think that, if they have some options, I think it's good for them to be able to hear that.
There are so many things that you are as a person, interests that you have, qualities that you bring to the table that go well beyond just what you can do on your team or in your sport.
My name is Genesis. I am a track and field athlete, a cat lover, and an influencer, and I'm more than an athlete.
I'm Henry Buckman. I'm a marketer, I'm a hiker, and I'm a diehard STL native, 314. And I'm more than an athlete.
My name is Drew Navarra. I'm a young professional, a future husband, and a Christian, and I am more than an athlete.
I'm Connor James. I'm a Christ follower. I'm a husband. I'm a servant. I'm more than an athlete.